Time for Act Two. It's now some of the things I set up in Act One. As you may remember, there's a lot of sketchiness going on in this play. And Shakespeare, if there's anything he liked, it was sketchiness. There's a lot of playing with images. And it's one of the things he does is play with you, play with playing with you. He's kind of messing around. With Olivia, you might remember the veils. I'll release the veil and I'll show you as if that would solve everything. And then Cesario, who's not impressed, but again, Cesario comes across as a man or is dressed up as a man, but is really a woman, Viola. But then I pointed that thing out. Viola is being played by a young man, by a 12 or 15-year-old on stage. And everybody in the theater knows that. And that's the parts of women were always played by boys or young men or adolescents, whatever. And that's being played with by Shakespeare, okay? He is constantly messing with you throughout. And one of the notions I want you to get down is this idea of what would be called seduction. And I mentioned this in the Act One, it's how seduction works. If you think about those old burlesque shows with the fans and the feathers, and it's the constant, what is kind of appealing about it is that there is constantly a covering up and a revealing, and it's never entirely there. And that's what Shakespeare is messing with throughout this play. And so many things are not exactly clear, but they will attract you to them. And as we go through this, keep that in mind, okay? Let me try to get through scene 1 and 2 of Act 2. Let me shrink myself up. There we go. You stay up there. And this is Act 2 at the start. And notice it's a heck of a lot like Act 1 at the start, but it's different. And what you get is Sebastian and Antonio, they just washed ashore, just like Viola and the captain did. And you get a conversation between these two, Antonio, that is a lot kind of like, but different than the one that took place between the ship's captain and Viola. And Sebastian says, "No, sooth, sir, my determinate voyage is mere extravagancy, but I perceive in you so excellent a touch of modesty, that you will not extort from me what I am willing to keep in. Basically, you won't tell people and exploit me by telling them what I'm not going to tell people. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Keep that in mind. Again, but I perceive in you so excellent a touch of modesty that you will not extort from me what I'm willing to keep in. What I'm not telling people, I sense that you're such a modest and excellent person, you won't tell anybody else, okay? Hint, hint, wink, wink. Therefore it charges me in manners, the rather to express myself. And here I'm going to tell you straight up, you must know of me then, Antonio, my name is Sebastian, which I called Rodrigo. So I told you on the ship that my name was Rodrigo, and no, reality, I'm Sebastian. So that's kind of weird. Awkward. So, and that is what's going on here. And this is important that he's bringing up, writing into this, is Shakespeare's writing ambiguity in. Why would this matter if something didn't actually go on? And I'll come right in and tell you that there seems to be suggestions of a homosexual affair between Antonio and Sebastian. They don't actually say it, but what the heck kind of dance are they doing right here? And notice this one. Antonio says, if you will not murder me for my love. Love? How often do men talk about love for one another? Let me be your servant. So let me be your servant as you go into this land. That's getting weird. And Antonio says, the gentleness of all the gods go with thee as you go into this land of Illyria. I have many enemies in Orsino's court. In other words, a lot of people hate me around here. I've been here before. They don't like me. I've got a lot of problems. I should just go over here and hang out. That would be the safe thing to do. But, well, else would I very shortly see thee there. But come what may, I do adore thee. Is that how men talk to each other? And please don't tell me that's how they talk to each other in the Renaissance, because this is getting kind of interesting. So again, in that opening scene, they seem to be dancing around something, and boy, oh boy, is Antonio dancing here. I do adore thee so, that danger shall seem sport, and I will go. Even though he's at risk in Illyria of being arrested, hint, hint, wink, wink, he's going to go with Sebastian because he loves him and adores him. And then you get this scene. And so Sebastian and Antonio seem to have had, it's never, dance of the fans, it's never quite there, and that theme of the old dance of the fans is going to come up again. We're not, now this is Malvolio and Viola, okay? And remember that Viola is representing Orsino. Orsino is the one duke, and Olivia is the other heiress in this other area. And Orsino is making a show of chasing after Olivia, okay? And is sending Cesario over, who is Viola, dressed up as Cesario, who is actually a young man, playing the part of Viola, playing the part of Cesario. Tell me I'm making that stuff up. It's what's going on. Everything's undercover throughout. And I want to emphasize that if you start uncovering this, you will never actually get to the bottom of it. Okay? You will get seduced into trying to dig to the bottom of it, when what's going to be more important is watching the way people respond to the uncertainty that they see in others. And so Viola is Cesario. Does Malvolio see through the disguise? Does Olivia? And Malvolio says, were not even you now with the Countess Olivia? Weren't you just here? Even now, sir, on a moderate pace, I have since arrived but hither. I just got here. What are you talking? I was just there a moment ago. She returns this ring to you. Here's this ring. You left that with her. You might have saved me the high pains to have taken it away from yourself. She adds, moreover, that you should put your lord into a desperate assurance. Okay, basically, tell Orsino to cut it out. And here's that ring you are leaving. This is weird, because Cesario did not leave a ring. Let me blow myself up here. Cesario didn't leave a ring. What is Olivia doing? What kind of game is she playing? And keep in mind that she is making Malvolio do her work for her. This is kind of weird. Malvolio is executing Olivia's desires to go put on a show, and then Cesario has to say, that's not mine. Why is Olivia giving it to them? It seems like a way to try to get Cesario to come back, to try to... It's not really clear, but there's something going on. And let me shrink myself up. Tell your master to basically leave her alone, or leave Olivia alone. And she says, she took the ring of me, all none of it. And so the reality is that she took this ring from me. I don't want anything to do with this. That seems to be the truth. But Malvolio says, give me a break, okay? And then takes off. Throws the ring at her, at him, at her, at whatever you want. And then Viola Cesario says, on stage, dressed as a man, who is a woman, but is actually played by a man. Okay. I hope you get the idea. I am the man. This is Viola saying, I am the man. If it be so, as 'tis poor lady, she were better love a dream. And so is she toying with me? Because she thinks I'm Cesario and I'm kind of good looking, and she might as well love a dream. And this is getting kind of weird. And I hope you get that the uncertainty is being messed with. Again, you cannot drill down to a true level and say this is reality and everybody ain't going to happen. Alas, our frailty is the cause, not we, for such as we are made, of such we be. How will this fadge, in other words, how will this work out? My master loves her dearly, and I, poor monster, fond as much on him as she mistaken seems to dote on me. So she's chasing me, and I'm chasing him, and now we got to play moving. Okay, so let's go up to these guys. These are the clowns. I mentioned them before. Sir Toby is kind of the drunk. Sir Andrew is getting messed with by Sir Toby. Sir Toby is acting as if he'll introduce Sir Andrew to Olivia, who is his niece. And Sir Toby is getting the money out of Sir Andrew for a drink and blah, blah, blah. And there's Festy the Fool. He is the one who says things that are oddly insightful. And he is the fool in that his job is to make jokes about the people he works for and make them uncomfortable. But that's his job, money. Behind everything is ultimately this drive for money. Let's shrink myself up again and go up here, and we'll see this other little play within a play. And Maria says, "What caterwauling do you keep here? What would you guys, if my lady have not called up her steward Malvolio?" And now, here's a tension between Malvolio, which does mean bad will. Okay, that name means bad will. It's obvious. And then there's Maria. Okay, and they have kind of a conflict going on where they are both trying to keep things in order around Olivia. And there's a tension between them. And they both act like it's not there, but yeah, it's there. Okay. So let me shrink myself up. It's always better. And you get this from Malvolio. "My master, are you mad? Or what are you? Have you no wit, manners, nor honesty?" This is, all these guys are making all Toby and all making noise, and Malvolio comes in and just says, "Look, cut it out. Be quiet. You. Just shut up." And he tells everybody to be quiet, and then they start talking smack about him. Okay? And Malvolio says, "Mistress Mary, if you prized my lady's favor at anything more than contempt, you would not give means for this uncivil rule. She shall know of it by this hand." What Malvolio is doing is saying, basically, you're creating trouble, and I'm going to tell her. Yeah, that's where the tension's coming in. And so Maria is going to get stinky and get her kind of revenge. Okay? So it's going to get weird here. Let me shrink myself up. And then she says this, and this happens in pretty much all the plays. "Go shake your ears." Okay? If you didn't hear Shakespeare and shake your ears, you're probably more deaf than I am. Okay? That is him playing on his name, obviously. You will see most of the time when Will is there, you can get a sense of the author as kind of making himself known behind the scenes. Will in Shakespeare, all these references, shake your beard, and Shakespeare introduces his name into the play again and again. But I want to be clear about this, about the uncertainty. There is always these different layers, these veils going behind this. Stick with me on this as I shrink myself up one more time. It doesn't work until I do this. And then he exits, and then Maria says, "For Monsieur Malvolio, let me alone with him. If I do not gull him into a nayword and make him a common recreation, do not think I have wit enough to lie straight in my bed. I know I can do it." I basically got an idea. And they said, "Oh, let us in on it." All of them start working together to mess with Malvolio. And what this is this is essentially a play within a play. That's what they're putting on. And in a real kind of phony kind of play sense, you're getting a play within a play that Maria is going to write. Okay, so Maria is going to try to play a joke on Malvolio. And that's what she's doing right now. And all the other actors say they're going to get in on it. And watch how this unfolds. Okay, you shrink up. And then you get this, and I want you to be aware of this. "Marry, sir, sometimes he is a kind of Puritan." Now, if you've heard of Puritans, you've probably heard about the whole Thanksgiving dinner and all that. Yeah, those are Puritans. What isn't often known about them, they were very self-righteous and holier than thou. And yeah, they eventually did get into power for a short time under Cromwell. But they were a political force throughout England at this time. They were often derided. And it wasn't just because of their faith. It was because they kind of had a holier-than-thou mentality. And it must be this way. Again, you can look up Cromwell and do a little bit of time with him on Wikipedia. It was a very much a holier-than-thou approach to things. And what Maria points out is Malvolio essentially has the Puritan attitude. Now, this play was written about 1605, around early 1600s. The Puritans existed. They came to America in 1620. They would take over England, I think, in around 1650 or something for a little bit before they got thrown out themselves. Lots of heads fell. But anyway, so they are a rising minority, and that's what Maria is referring to. They are not exactly a popular group. Okay? And let's keep going. Maria says, I will drop in his way some obscure epistle. I will drop this, an obscure epistle, in other words, a letter of love. I will basically make Malvolio think that Olivia is in love with him. And Maria is the author. And her intention here is to make fun of Malvolio. In a very real way, she is very similar to Shakespeare. Okay? And so she is the writer with an intention, and she's got actors, she's got all the other clowns on her side. Help me pull off this stunt on this guy, and we'll have some fun with him. And notice what she's doing, and keep this in mind with the play. She is essentially going to reflect Malvolio's fantasies about Olivia, his fantasies that she's really in love with him, even though he's kind of a little bit odd. But anyway, so she's going to play on that. What's already there, she's going to make real in the letter, but she's acting like she's not. And so keep that in mind. Let's shrink ourselves up. That's always better. And keep plowing forward and see how far we can get. Now, this is in scene 4. Let's play with this, okay? Orsino says, Thou dost speak masterly, my life on it, young though thou art, thine eye has stayed upon some favor that it loves, hath it not, boy? Boy. Boy. Literally, Viola would be played by a boy playing Cesario, who was a young man. Orsino's calling him boy, calling her boy, calling him boy. That's not by accident. Does it again, okay? For boy, however do we praise ourselves? That's kind of stripping it. Then don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. That's what Shakespeare's essentially doing, okay? And he's putting it in Orsino's voice, but that's Shakespeare doing it, putting in Orsino about the actors. And so I hope you get that there are multiple layers of veiling going on here. And that's what theater is about. For boy, however do we praise ourselves? Our fancies are more giddy and uniform, more longing, wavering, sooner lost and worn than women's are. In other words, we're as bad as women are. Is that kind of sort of in a weird, that's kind of sexist, but kind of odd, okay? And then Orsino says, then let thy love be younger than thyself, or thy affection cannot hold the bent. For women are as roses, whose fair flower, being once displayed, doth fall that very hour. Now, this is odd, okay? This is Orsino telling Cesario that women basically lose their beauty and they're not very attractive. They're not. Do you think Orsino, why would Orsino tell Cesario this? And remember that Orsino is kind of a phony and making a show of being interested in Olivia. Who could Orsino be interested in? And does he know that Cesario is really Olivia? Does he actually know that? Or is he two male actors actually flirting with each other on stage? Makes you think. Okay. That's what Shakespeare's doing. He is playing with the surfaces throughout, and it gets kind of complicated. And then you get this, okay? This is the play within a play coming back in again. Sort of, kind of, but in a slightly different way. The fool says, no pain, sir. I take pleasure in singing. This is Festi coming and singing for Orsino, and then on another day he would go sing for Olivia. Okay? No pain, sir. I take pleasure in singing, sir. I'll pay thy pleasure then. Truly, sir, and pleasure will be paid, one time or another. And that is kind of odd when they're talking about pleasure in paying. Okay, that gets a little bit odd. But notice that I hope you recognize that Festi is doing this for the money. He's saying he's not, but everybody knows he is. Okay, it's like saying, oh, I'm just here to entertain you, to do this, but that's behind it. It's understood that Feste's there for the money. And then he says, now the melancholy god protect thee, and the tailor made thy doublet of changeable taffeta, for thy mind is very opal. Okay, what Feste's talking about here is you, Orsino, are very hard to see through. It looks like we can see through you, but opal, the taffeta, is a very thin fabric. I'm confused by you, Orsino. I don't quite know what's going on, but I don't think you are what you're presenting yourself as, is what he's kind of saying there. And that's the fool who sees through Orsino and doesn't see anything in the end. Orsino then says this to Cesario, and I don't know what to make out of this. I don't know, okay, but this is kind of weird. He says, but mine is all as hungry as the sea and can digest as much. And he's saying this to Cesario, who as Viola was just swallowed up by the sea and spit out, and her brother was eaten alive by the sea, and this is kind of weird. I don't know what to make of that, okay? That it is unintentionally referring to Viola's recent, shipwreck. That's weird, okay? I don't know what to make of it, but I do think that's essentially the point of Shakespeare, is go ahead and try to make a point of this. Good luck. Thank you, Will. My father had a daughter, loved a man. Ooh, ouch, that hurt. That just came from Cesario, who is Viola, who is actually a young man. My father had a daughter, loved a man. If you wanted to put it in contemporary English, it would be who loved a man. My father had a daughter. She's basically talking about herself as if she's somebody else who loved a man. Whom does she, what the heck? As it might be, perhaps were I a woman, I should your lordship. If I were a woman, I might love your lordship. In other words, you. If I were, guess what? At a certain level, yeah, she is. But right now she's Cesario. If she takes off the costume, she's Viola. If she takes off the costume again, a blank, my lord. She never told her love, but let concealment, like a worm in the bud. In other words, like a worm in a flower. Okay, the flower conceals the bud, or conceals the worm inside of it. Feed on her damask cheek. She pined in thought, and with a green and yellow melancholy she sat like Patience on a monument. That's her patiently waiting. Smiling at grief, was not this love indeed? Okay, that is, holy cow, this is why Shakespeare is extraordinary. Okay, I am all the daughters of my father's house. That's a weird thing for Viola to say, because she is the only daughter of her father, and all the brothers too. She does think, so you get this, she thinks Sebastian's gone. I as Cesario am the brother, I as Viola am the daughter. She doesn't want to tell Orsino that she's got Viola under those threads, but you get it, that I hope you understand the constant concealment and revealing that goes on. She is revealing herself while she's concealing herself. Thank those fans again. And yet I know not, sir, shall I to this lady? What kind of show am I going to put on now? And Maria then says, get ye all thee to the box tree. Malvolio's coming down. Everybody get in your places. Boy, does Maria look like she's running a play and that she's the director, which in fact is exactly what Shakespeare used to do. He used to be the writer and the director and an actor in his plays. He was primarily, obviously, a writer, but he also directed his plays, and he even acted on them every now and then. That's exactly what, oh boy, is Maria doing that right now. Maria's taking on multiple roles, and she's putting on this stunt with Malvolio, which reflects, again, kind of Shakespeare. Okay. Observe him for the love of mockery, for I know this letter will make a contemplative idiot of him, will make him look like an idiot. Okay. That's her intention. Watch what happens to her intention as we go through this, and think about the value of the author's intention with making this play within a play. And this is a jest. This is a play within a play, which Shakespeare used to do. and almost all of his comedies, he would build a play within the play. He did it even in his tragedies, in Hamlet, for example, when he has the play to catch the rat. But anyway, a play within a play is a way to, inside the play, make a comment on the play. And that's what Shakespeare's using right now. And Malvolio then finds the letter. Besides, she uses me with more exalted respect than anyone else follows her. What he's saying there is Olivia shows me so much respect and thinks so highly of me. And you can see Malvolio's falling for it. Why is he falling for it? Because he wants to. He's falling for it and making a fool out of himself because he wants to. He doesn't necessarily want to make a fool out of himself, but he wants to believe that Olivia really loves him. And that makes him vulnerable to believe the game that Maria is playing on him. I will leave it there, but what starts to happen in Act 2 is you start getting this intensification of the themes that were brought up first in Act 1. Okay? All right, take care, guys. I'll be back for Act 3, and Act 3 gets really, really messy. Take care.